Alright, folks. How's it going? Sorry, technical difficulties there trying to get in. So hopefully you can hear me all right there. There was a bit of issue with the microphone last day, but welcome. So we're on our second night of this. I actually had someone mention to me that we should call this Rounders Anonymous for all of us that are suffering that little bit of withdrawal from Rounders after the season finishing. So just for anyone that wasn't on the last day, so basically I'm going to be doing a bit of a live Q&A, but I'm going to be going through a couple of topics as well this week, just on some information that I've been given, and I'm just going to kind of highlight what you can expect to see from the channel here. But for anyone who didn't realize, you just hit subscribe, your blast questions and away and like whatever. But yeah, so hope you enjoyed the last day anyway. We covered an awful lot of topics, wide range of stuff. But yeah, so what we can expect kind of going forward on here. So we've got a couple of interviews with a couple of coaches coming up, both within Rounders and baseball. So a couple of amateur baseball coaches, and I'm actually getting someone who coached at college level to commit to doing an interview. So I'm gonna get some tips on drills and stuff from them. So if you do have any questions that you want to ask in particular of those, send them in, and I can definitely ask them. So hopefully they'll be able to give us a few tricks and tips. Then we're also going to be having an interview sorted with a physio who works with the GB softball and baseball team, and he's going to give us a few tips on how to manage your warm ups, what the drills do, the things for injury prevention. So that should be very interesting. And I think, obviously I have my own issues with injury this year, but sorry, someone's saying the audio is not great. Is it the level of it? I try and adjust this. Might be a bit louder there. I'm getting a little bit of feedback here, but hopefully that works a little bit better. Bring that a bit closer. But yeah, so that'll be interesting with the warm ups and some drills to stop those hamstrings and injuries. I suppose probably one of the most common that we have. Then, as I mentioned, like we've got a few breaking bits of news of things that you can expect for the upcoming season, or potential for the upcoming season. And then we're just going to cover a few bits on what your club, what you should be looking at doing in the off season now that we have a couple of months off. So I'm going to start with our news anyway. So there was a meeting last week between a lot of the clubs and the powers that be in Orcorla, looking at a few things that can change going forward. And now I don't think there was any hard decisions made, but it seemed to be an overwhelming majority view that they want to move towards separate finals. So we're going to have a men's day, ladies' day, and a mixed day. So obviously that'll depend on whoever's coming in our Corla to sanction that for next year. But it looks like that's the way that it's going to be going. I suppose that's probably going to boost the numbers a little bit. And with the idea that, like, if multiple teams are through, that they're going to travel, on multiple days. So I'm not sure what people think about that. But it would definitely make for a little bit more of a spectacle. Then over the last few years, we've been trying to work towards getting home for Rounders. Now, I think we're still a long way away from actually having a dedicated pitch and stadium and all that. But it seems like we're one step closer in that we have a pitch that's going to be a designated, like, halfway venue. And if anyone's going to the Connacht Cup this year, so that will be a nice little trial run for it. So it's in Athlone GAA. Not sure if anyone here has been to it before, but they're looking at. It looks like we're going to be getting one of their pitches indefinitely for a few weeks. So that will be, nice neutral ground in the middle of the country, and hopefully the start of GAA Rounders having a bit of a home that we can kind of make our own, and maybe down the line, have a couple of facilities that are for us, and we're not just kind of coming in on a day and wondering what's this, where's that, are we allowed to do this or that it can actually be our own. But so I'm not sure if when that'll be announced to the public, hopefully soon enough. But yeah, breaking news here. We'll getting all the leaks. So what next? I had a couple of questions about bats. I know we kind of covered like, and I displayed a load of bats the last day, and I realized watching back a little bit that every time I did, I knocked the camera, and God knows what way it was all skewed by the end. So, just had a question on like weights, lengths, and drop. So a lot of people don't understand what those things mean. So very, very simply, I'm gonna get one of my bats here. So most bats are going to be anywhere between 30 and 34 inches. For most adults, we're looking at a 34-inch bat. The drop means the number of ounces from the length of the bat. So if we have a 34-inch bat and it was a drop 4, which is very uncommon, that would be a 30-ounce bat. So like most bats that you want to be looking at to swing, probably somewhere in the region of a drop 7, drop 8, up to a drop 10. For some kids, maybe a drop 12 or a drop 13, possibly. But basically, it means that the bigger the drop, it's going to keep the length, but it's going to be much lighter. So the bigger the drop as well, it's going to tend to be a more balanced bat. So it'll swing that a little bit quicker. Now, this all comes with like a million exceptions, and it does depend bat to bat. But as a general rule, the bigger the drop, the lighter swing, the lighter the bat is physically, but also the lighter swinging that it is. And I had someone ask, are you better off with a lighter bat or a heavier bat? And again, it really depends. But starting off, I would encourage everybody to go with the lighter bats because control is worth more than power. Not sure if I mentioned it the last day, but it's very uncommon to swing at full force because the ball is going to go a certain distance. Like you get to a stage of diminishing returns where it's like, okay, well, I'm able to hit the ball 75 meters by swinging at 75%. If I swing at 100, I may be able to hit it 85, but I lose my control. I'm not able to place the ball quite as well. Um, if and anyone there, do you have any thoughts on like, do you prefer lighter bats or heavier bats or um, let me just see. Yeah. So I'm gonna attempt this. So now obviously in theory, if you're able to swing a heavy bat as quick as you can swing a light bat, so I just put up heavy or light. If you can swing the heavy bat as quick as you can swing the light bat, the ball will go further because mass moves mass. But as a general rule, I would recommend the lighter bat. Make their faster the bowler, the lighter the bat. Yeah, yes. Like again, depends on the batter. So like if you have someone that is equally like within reason equally strong and able to swing the heavier bat the same, it's not going to make much of a difference. But definitely for the more beginners or people who aren't used to swinging or whatever, definitely lighter bat gives you that bit more control, allows you to get the bat around to the ball. So yeah, we seem to be 67% going for the light bat. Again, it probably just depends on you as a hitter. Like, are you like, okay, well, I could hit it a bit further with a heavier bat, but my job is get on base. I'm the first batter. There's no real benefit to me smacking the ball out because like my job is just to get to first. Um, so I have a couple of ones here. So obviously this is my anarchy that I was showing the last day. So 34-26. Little bit of an end load in it, not a whole lot. Then I got a youth baseball bat. I was showing this off at the under 16 mixed fella. So this is a drop 8. So for a 32-inch bat, it's 24 ounces. So it sounds kind of heavy for that length. However, also the shorter the bat, the closer the weight is to you, the lighter it feels. So don't be afraid of going. It's like, oh well, 24 is very heavy for some of the kids or some of the maybe not as strong players. It's like, okay, but if it's a shorter bat, you can get an awful lot more out of it. So sometimes, it could be worth it. Also, the barrel on these is much more like it's much chunkier. So I'm not sure if you can see there. And this probably isn't even the best example, but like it's definitely a bigger barrel. So it does give you a better chance of actually making contact with the ball. I say the poll has gone to 50-50 now. So there's probably a good chance that we've just got a couple more power hitters and stuff here. Like it really, really depends. Like I could give you two bats and say, oh yeah, this one's this weight and this one's the same weight, and they're two completely different bats. and that's just the way it is. It's a bit like getting a car. Sometimes it's like, oh well, it's a 2 liter or whatever, and they're the exact same, and they're nothing like, we've all been there. So there is an awful lot of nuance, and I would really recommend everybody go and try out different bats. Like there seems to be this kind of reluctance into buying bats, or like, oh well, I'd like to buy it, but I'd like to try it first, but I don't want to travel and go along to another club to try out their bat. It's like, like at some stage you're gonna have to stop making excuses. Like I I don't think there's too many teams or too many players out there that if you said, here, can I take a couple of swings with it, that are going to say no, uh, off you go, good luck. Like most people are going to be very obliging and be like, okay, well, where'd you get it? Oh, well, that's a little bit heavy. What specs is that? Okay, all right, I'll go a little bit lighter. But anyway, yeah, ask, asking you shall receive. But by the way, guys, yeah, if you have any questions as we go, like I know I said I'd go through a couple of topics there, like fire them in and I'll get to them at some stage. So I had a couple of questions on the All Stars. I'm not sure how interested people are in this, but so obviously the GAA All Stars, the nominees came out. Like, I think the Mogi or the LGFA started during the week, and we had the football out anyway. And a couple of people asking about the Rounders ones. So I don't have the dates for it. I'm not sure when they're going to be out. But questions I had on it were mostly like, how are the All Stars picked, or and the most common question actually are the All Stars always going to be the best players? And obviously, getting an All Star is a great honor, but it doesn't mean that anyone who didn't get one isn't one of the best players in the country. So the All Stars are done by position. So you have your 9 fielders, and there's usually a 10th player, so that's a Roman player, so someone who's played in a couple of different positions. And then it's all like stats based off, the number of times they got the base, the number of times they scored, how many outs they contributed to, and so forth. But as far as I'm aware, it's only a positive ranking system. So like anything, there's going to be flaws in the system, and everyone's going to have different ideas on who should get it, or if you use this system versus that system. But it's just to kind of enlighten you on it. But on the whole, is it the best players? So because we have 9 positions, basically there's only one person in each position that's going to get it. So if you have the 2 best players, and I know this has definitely happened in the past, recent enough, and probably further in the past as well, where you've got the 2 best players in the country by a distance were played in the same position. So like it was kind of a coin toss between whether you want player A or player B. But basically, whichever one of them got the All Star in their position, the other one who was by, like, if they weren't your pick as the best player in the country, they were your second pick. They weren't getting an All Star because the position they played, there was one person that ended up getting it ahead of them. Even if they were ahead of the next 200 people, they're not getting the All Star because their position is gone. So sometimes you do end up with a situation like that, and that's just the way it is. Like unless we went towards positionless All Stars, but like that's a little bit meaningless at the same as well. Like how can you have 2 people who are the All Star catcher? It's like, well, no, your All Star is, it's supposed to be recognition that you are the best. So it is only going to be one. But and some of the things that can go against players is, so like we've only so many outs. So in a 5 inning game, there's 15 outs. If we'll use the catcher here, and just because Mick's name is on it, I'm going to use him as the example as well as myself. So if me and Mick are the 2 catchers, and Mick gets 10 outs in a game, and I get 9, so he wins it ahead of me. But maybe Mick gets 10 catches and drops 3, and I get 9 catches and I drop none. Because it's a positive system, it's like my percentage might be higher, but the person getting the more opportunities will get the benefit because they're contributing to more outs. Anyway, that's just a little bit of nuance on the All Stars. But yeah, so I'm just going to end that poll there. So it seems 50-50. We're fairly split today. Again, I'm just learning some of these functions. But yeah, no, if there's any questions on the bats or that, just shout. So let's see. Sorry, I made notes, which the last day I didn't do. So I probably would have been better off not making notes, just getting it flowed a little bit better. So what should your club be doing in the off season? You'll have an awful lot of clubs. Might be your own club, might be my club, might be the next club next door, who will go, oh, lovely, it's September, season's over. We don't have to worry about anything until March or April. Rest up, and we'll talk to you in the new year. It's an option. It's a bad idea. Um, from an organizational point of view, I would say that the next 4 to 5 months is when the real hard work is done. So, like, if that's recruitment, fundraising, organizing your equipment, having a discussion with the people in your club, in your team, on where you want to be next year. That this is the time to do that. So, like, say recruitment, for example. If you're going to start, if affiliation is going to be in January or February, and entries need to be in, maybe a month after that, and we're looking at the season starting in April. If you're only going to start recruiting in March, you're goosed. Now, if you're a new club starting off and you're entering into some of the junior competitions, or you're just looking to the novice days, or some of those developmental competitions, that's absolutely fine. But for any clubs or people like watching now, I would really recommend start recruiting, start finding out who's going to be interested now. Because first of all, if you've new people coming in, you want to give them a good chance of being able to get a feel for the sport and be welcome into the club. So it's kind of hard if you're going to bring someone in a couple of weeks before championship starts, and whatever your aspirations might be, and they're joining a team where everyone is moving, they know the game, they're used to training and operating at a high enough level. Um, like, if you bring in someone a month beforehand who's never played and doesn't know the rules, it's very tough on them to have to come in and learn a sport that they may not have ever seen before, learn the rules, learn the skills, learn to play in this team in a system. Like, there's players, like, I'll hold my hand up. It's taken me years to learn all these things, and you're gonna say, like, oh well, we'll go looking for them a month beforehand. It's not really doing them any favors. Um, so yeah. Uh, Mark, do you shorten your grip when you bat? On the last good ball, more so. If anyone isn't sure, the benefit of shortening the grip is good. You can if anyone isn't sure. Okay, so basically, shortening your grip on the bat, you're just making the bat shorter. So you're making the bat shorter, and you're making the weight less, because you're shortening it. So, like I was saying about some of the heavier bats that are shorter, because it's closer to you, you have more control. So the whole idea of choking up the bat, you see people doing hurling and everything, is to gain that little bit of control, so that for the last ball coming in, it's going to be easier to get the bat to the ball. So, like, you're usually doing that, say, on the last good ball, if you're struggling to make contact. Like, if someone's hitting it and they're just not happy with their hit, I wouldn't say, like, change what way they're gripping the bat. Like, if you're making good contact. However, if you're not, or you're swinging and missing, or you're hitting the ball late or fouling it out, then it's a great idea short shorten your grip. So we take our bat here, hold it here, right, and then I'm on my last good ball. I need to just put the bat on the ball, put it in contact, make the other team make a play. Suddenly, the bat is shorter, the bat is lighter to my swing. I can get the bat there easier. So that's the whole reason behind choking up the bat. Now, like, Mark asked a good question, but, like, to further on that, I see a lot of players, and they're always choking up the bat, and I would kind of question why they're doing that. So, like, if, like, oh well, I just like doing this. Well, I think you'd probably benefit more from a shorter bat and using the full length of the bat, because as you turn your wrists, like, it is going to catch a little bit. You're not going to get your full extension. So, it would be good to go to, a shorter bat, maybe by an inch, maybe 2 inches, depending how much you choke up. But that kind of brings me back to, what your club should be doing. So I mentioned about recruitment, and, like, fundraising is another one. So obviously, Christmas time, people are going to be spending their money. New Year, the purse strings tend to tighten, maybe a bit more so up here in Cavan, or some of you out there probably say that, well, they're always tight up here. But like, before Christmas is really good, is probably your best time to start, doing your fundraising. Work out, okay, well, what were our costs this year? What did it cost us to enter, to, do all our rest fees, all that sort of stuff. And then, okay, well, what do we need for next year? Do we need a set of jerseys? Do we need bats? Do we need tees? Do we need, I mentioned some of those nets the last day, what do we need? Do that budget out as soon as possible. And then, you're not panicking at the last minute trying to fundraise, or, maybe you have to whip around each player, or up the fees. Be organized. it'll just make life an awful lot easier. So then following from that is looking at the equipment. So like what we're saying about the shorter bats, you know, maybe have a look at what your club used this year. Okay, how many players use their own bat? Okay, so if people are using their own bat, you've nothing to worry about. Life's easy. They're happy. You're happy. But a lot of clubs out there, they're using team bats. That's multiple people using the same bat, and you end up with, you'll see one player who's hitting really well. Oh, I want to use their bat. It's like, well, if you're not the same player as them, it might not be the most ideal bat for them. You have someone really strong using a bat that's quite heavy, against slow pitch, and they're hitting home runs for fun. It's like, oh, that's a great bat. It hits the ball really far. We should all use that. Not really. But like, it's not to say that there's one ideal bat, but just the more variety that you have there for your team, the better. Now, I'm not saying go out and buy one of every single bat. That would be, well, my dream, and I'm sure somebody is there would be the same. Be like a child in a sweet shop. But have a range. Have a couple of lighter bats, a couple of heavier bats, a couple of shorter bats, a couple of longer bats. That's your starting point. Bats, they're not as expensive as they used to be. They're an awful lot easier to get than they used to be. Um, you know, i- if anyone doesn't know how to get bats, like, contact the next club. If you're just a member in a club, talk to your committee, ask them, "This how do you get bats? I'm thinking about getting one of my own." You don't need to break the bank. You could spend crazy money on a bat if you want. Like, do you need to? Absolutely not. Like, you can get a very good bat anywhere between 150 and €300, I'd say. Like, if you want to go beyond that, you certainly can, and sometimes people will, just because they like the graphics on a bat or whatever. But yeah, so there's some of the smaller things that your club really should be doing over the next couple of months. Even just as simple as have that conversation. Okay, how do we do this year? What do we want to do next year? And how do we get there? No point in going in blind and last second. Okay, well, we started training 4 weeks beforehand, and then we got really annoyed because we didn't make a semi final, or we fell short of whatever our expectations were. Maybe it's okay. Well, we didn't do much last year, and we're getting promoted from junior to intermediate or intermediate to senior. Yeah, not saying that any of these clubs did, but just using that as an example. So it's like, okay, well, we'll do the same thing again and hope for the best, and then playing at that higher level. It's not enough to keep up. Um, there used to be, like, nearly like false pride with a lot of players and a lot of clubs, like, in the past. I think it's kind of gone, but like, when I say that, it was like nobody wanted to be seen to be training too much. It was like, oh yeah, no, sure, we don't train, we just rock up and we're really good. And it was like kind of like a badge of honor that was there, and nobody wanted to be seen to be really trying. Like, I think, like, a lot of that has kind of been shed, in that, like, people, like, they don't view it the same. Like, more people are like, Jesus, well, if they're training twice a week, we need to be at least matching that. Which, for me, is great to see. And, like, you can tell the difference when you see clubs playing and you see players playing. You can tell who's been training and who's been putting in the work. Maybe not on a one-off, because, like, look, anyone can get lucky or unlucky on a day, but, like, over the course of a season, training, it tells. And same as, like, you see some people and they might have a great breakout year, and then they kind of fall off for a bit, and they'd be like, oh well, why were they so good and now they're not? It's like, well, beginner's luck maybe, and then they didn't put in the work, or a new player that were underestimated. I've definitely seen it at our own trainings. Someone will come along to give the game a go, and they're like, oh, this is great. I'm brilliant at this. I can hit the ball. I can do this. Great. And then the more they train, they're like, Jesus, I'm getting worse. I'm not sure if anyone here has ever had that or seen that, but, like, what usually happens is people go easy on them. So, like, if someone comes along to a training session with me and say I'm pitching the ball in and they're giving it a go for the first time, I'm going to try my best to make sure to hit the ball every time. So you want them to enjoy it and see what they think. I'm not going to be, like, completely mean and try and not let them hit a single ball and be like, Jesus, that's no good. I'm never going to try that again. But then, like, the more they play, the harder you are on them. And then, you know, same with the fielders. Like, if a fielder is standing somewhere, like, oh well, I'm not expecting them to hit it. Jesus, they did really well, and I was nearly admiring how well they hit the ball rather than actually trying to get them out. The more they play, the more you train with them, the less that has an impact. So, like, they may feel like they've gotten worse as a player, but they haven't. They're just kind of like you're now being held to a more similar standard to everyone else. So look, maybe people don't agree with me on that one, but it definitely does happen. But yeah, like anyone there, like are your own clubs like do you tend to leave it to the last minute, or would you try to be a bit more organized? Let me know. But like I don't think anyone can be too organized. I mean, what's the difference in having a conversation now than having it in 2 months versus having it 3 months into the season and the wheels are coming off? CC92. Any tips for hitting the ball at right field? So I'm going to assume that you're a right-handed batter. Would that be correct? Because if you're a left-handed batter, just swing, hit the ball out there. Um, so as a right-handed batter, think I mentioned this last time. Maybe I didn't. Basically, the contact point you want to hit. So barrel straight, hitting the ball straight out. It's going to go back roughly in line with pitcher second base. You hit the ball later, so tilted. So basically, the point of contact of where the bat hits the ball is pointing towards first base or right field. That's what makes the ball go out there. So not this twisting your feet and all that. Like that's just craziness. Um, what you really want to do is just meet that ball a little bit later. And sometimes people find it easier to do that by swapping their body around or whatever. But like, don't I really recommend not doing that. Don't telegraph what you're going to do, and like it gives you more range on what you're able to do. If you're getting the ball sent into you and it's on the very inside of the mat and you're trying to hit it out right field, probably not going to end too well. So sometimes you kind of just have to take a pitch that's there. But yeah, no, it's just about meeting the ball later. So let it kind of come across the base a little bit more before you actually make that contact. Yeah, I think people are a bit quieter this evening. Okay, so yeah, so anything else that you think that your club should be doing for next year? Coaches like as a coach, but also your club looking at coaches. It's like this is the time to train up people. It's like there's no like it's very frustrating. Some years some clubs get on to me. Oh yeah, yeah. Well, we wanted to do X, Y, and Z, but sure there was no one to do it, and nobody will commit. It's like, well, if you're asking people in February or March to like take an underage team or take a senior team, senior adult, take a team. Well, a lot of people have committed to things already. So, like, first of all, there's winter sports. If you're in a club that there's a lot of, or either it's a one club model where you're not fighting, but like you've got dual players of football, hurling, camogie, whatever, as well as rounders. People have committed to sports, so like don't leave it too late. If you leave it till after them, it's gonna be a hell of a lot harder to like get players, but also get coaches. But like you know, get your coaches trained up now. There's coaching clinics on the whole time. Like the GAA are running them. Baseball Ireland run stuff. There's stuff online. I was actually just listening to a podcast the other day from a fast pitch coach, and they were talking about how to become a better coach. And they were talking about all these drills and all this, and they had a top coach on, and he basically said, "No," he said, "That's not what I'd look at all." He said the first thing is work on your communication. Like it's like if you can communicate what you're trying to do better, immediately you're a better coach, even without knowing anything extra. So work on communication. Joe, in the comment, what would you advise a club that has 10 new players just signed up? I'm going to need a little bit more detail. I'm not sure what you mean. 10 new players just signed up. If you can just let me know a little bit more context, I can let you know. Anyway, sorry, I'm just going to look down at my notes here. So, yeah, so during the week, obviously the soccer Ballon d'Ors were on, and we did a little bit of a poll on Instagram. Well, not a poll, but I sent a thing out looking to see who your, I think I called it the Ballon d'Or nominations would be. So, I'm going to go through them in the end today as well. So I just basically took the top votes, and I'm sure most people here will disagree with them. But like if you do, it's like, well, more people should have voted for whatever you thought should have been it. But yeah. So Joe, are you able to tell me what you mean Do you mean like 10 new players on top of your original panel and you're trying to work with all these new players, or not really sure what what it is you're asking? Um, but anyway, yeah. So on the votes that came in, so on the lady side, no, and there was a couple of ties in here, and I wasn't like I was just take I was going to do top three, and then there was ties and thirds. So I was like, right, I'll go down to five. So don't shoot the messenger. Here's what came in, and I'm not sure if this was based off peaks on the season. I'm not sure how many games people saw when they voted. Maybe they're voting for their own clubs, so like there is that inherent bias that comes into it, and also like I don't know, like maybe other people just didn't vote. But here's what we had. So on the ladies' side, in fifth place there was Leah Maloney, from Cuchulainn. Fourth place was Katie Kenny from Brafey. Third was a tie between the two winning ladies pitchers of Danielle Keane and Michelle Hopkins. And second place was Katie Grunell. And then in first place, by there was a bit more of a gap here. I don't know if it was just club voting or whatever. Chloe Doyle from Wexford, so Glenmartown, um, was your ladies Ballon d'Or winner for, well, on my Instagram thing anyway. And I'll go to the men's in a second. So brand new, just signed up and no games. How do you keep them interested? They wouldn't have known the season is over. Okay, well, so sometimes games is one of the worst things that you can do. So when I'm coaching or training, like everyone says, "Oh, you want to play games." It's not. It's true to a point. Like people enjoy games. People enjoy being involved. Like if you have a game where seven of the players aren't touching the ball and there's someone struggling to pitch, nobody's enjoying it. Um, you know, so I'd be looking at more what are you doing in your training sessions? Structure your training sessions so that they're involving people, they're keeping people active, they're keeping them moving, and you're working on the skills. Like people enjoy getting better about learning stuff. Sometimes that happens in the game, sometimes it happens in training. Um, Again, like games have their place, but for me, I think a game is probably one of the laziest ways that a coach can coach, because it's like, oh well, sure, there's okay, we've 20 people here training, sure, or 18, we'll say, okay, sure, just do 9 against 9, and I'll sit back and all I have to do is call good balls and bad balls. Like that's not coaching. Um, you know, let's maybe break them up. Okay, sometimes the best thing that you can do to learn something about your own game is to try and explain it to someone else, and it makes you kind of look at your own game a little bit different. Like I definitely found that when I started coaching, that my own game improved in leaps and bounds, because as I was explaining something, I was like, okay, well, this is probably what you should be doing. Uh, am I doing that? Okay, I need to tweak what I'm doing. So you could pair people up by position. So like your outfielders are working with your outfielders as they're explaining stuff. Like your new people are learning, your more experienced people are probably like maybe they're learning off each other. So like your left outfielder is saying something and your center or right's going, Jesus, I haven't been doing that. I really should. Like they're obviously really good in the game. So that would be number one. Keep people active. Same as when it comes to batting, get tees, get nets, get people swinging a bat, hitting a ball. If you're playing a game, there's one person with a bat. If you have a team in batting, there's 8 people not batting. So if you want to teach them how to bat, even if they're running around the bases, they're not going to learn how to bat by doing that. Get them more active, practicing the skills. Like uh, if you ask me any questions, like it will boil down to: Are you practicing enough? Are you doing it enough times? It really is about reps. Like yes, you can work on doing all these techniques of tuck your elbow in, are you keeping your eyes up or eyes down? There's lots of little bits and pieces, but like the best thing you can do is practice. The more times you practice something, the better you'll get at it. Now, there is, contradiction there in that like practice makes permanent and perfect practice makes perfect. But like at that stage, like hitting off a tee, get them, go buy 5 tees. They're like 35 or 40 euro a piece. Hit. Go to like the nets at the back of a GA field, you know, and then when they go to actually play the game, they're making contact, they're going to be enjoying the game an awful lot more. So like that's what I would recommend. Just basically keeping people active and involved. Rather than saying, "Oh well, you learn by playing a game." Mm, you do when you already kind of know it. Just maybe that doesn't answer your question, but like that's what I would do, and I'm sure if you ask another coach, they'll have a slightly different idea on what it should be. Um, so yeah, over to our men's then. So I think again similar to the ladies, I'm not sure what way people were voting or if votes were cannibalized on teams or anything. So in fifth place, we had a tie, Barry Lamb and Colin Kiernan. So the bowler catcher combination for the winning men's team. Fourth place, Nathan Loughnane. Third place, another tie, Mark Jennings and Cathal Creven. So Connacht coming in strong there. Second place, Oran Kieran. And then in first place was Shane Shurton. So I'm not sure if people would agree with those rankings on either side or both sides, but that's what came back. So I said I'd share it with you anyway. But like if there's anyone out there that doesn't know a whole lot about rounders or is like, oh well, I want to learn as much as I can, like after naming out what about 14 players there, they're players that they're all fantastic. Like you could learn something from each one of them, and between them all, probably covered every position on the field. Um, yeah, yeah, probably have. So like if you're looking for people's games to emulate, that's the way to go. You know, there's so much footage out there now that wasn't out there for years. That like you're kind of spoiled for choice in that it's like, okay, well, when I was growing up, I couldn't see a game of rounders unless there happened to be one in the local pitch, which there tended not to be. So, like, there was less teams, more the games were further away. There was no chance of anything, well, didn't really have the internet anyway. Show me age here, but like there wasn't that option to see games or watch how the game was played, whereas there is now. So if you're a catcher starting off, watch some of those finals, watch some of the semi-finals if you can find the streams. Some clubs stream some of their games throughout the year. Watch the players, what way they're doing it. The last day, like watching at the underage, I was watching the different techniques. Some of the catchers going with split stance and versus solid stance. There's so much out there, and you can like, okay, well, are they doing it well? Am I doing it like that? Do I like what they're doing? No, I don't like that, and I do that. Okay, I need to change it, or the opposite. Um. So, any other questions out there? Anything is it like to know or ask about? So like I'm really looking forward to I'm hoping to get that warm up and injury prevention interview done soon enough. Like even from my own point of view as a coach, like I have my own ideas on what I like to do as warm ups and whatever. Um, I'm not sure what you do yourselves, but like I definitely find that a lot of teams that go out and warm up is basically play mini rounders. So it's like, oh yeah, we're going to go out and throw the ball as hard as we can and go out and bat 3 or 4 or 5 times, and that's a warm up. It's like, well, a warm up is, it's supposed to get you ready to play the game. It doesn't mean that you're going to be, throwing the ball 70 meters or, trying to hit home runs as a warm up. It's like, well, has it actually prepared your body to go in and perform at what it's capable? So, hopefully, we get some professional tips on how to manage that. You'll also see like each different club will have their own ideas on how to do the warm ups. Like Cullen have a very unique warm up strategy. So like and look look at other teams playing what they do for the warm ups, steal a little bit from them, add your little bit to it, pass it on. So yeah, any other questions? I had a few more questions about bats, but I feel like I've probably covered most of it, and I don't want to be boring you with the same information on the bats over and over. So yeah, so like just going back on the drops, I have a couple of bats here that are the exact same lengths and weights. So I'm gonna do a bit of a clean, bit dirty. Not even mine. I'm actually holding it for someone. But the other thing is was asked the last day about material, but there's also a difference in a one piece and a two piece bat. Not sure if people are aware of that or have any interest in it, but basically a one piece bat, they don't break everything around me. So it's one piece the whole way. So they tend to be stiffer bats. A lot of the research out there will say that like a one piece bat is better for a power hitter because it just lets you power through the ball a little bit more. So if you're consistently making good contact and you're not kind of hitting the ball everywhere along the barrel, fairly consistent, but a one piece bat will probably give you a little bit more pop versus a two piece bat. You can see here two pieces. So like they tend to be a little bit more flexible. Now, not as important in rounders as they are in like softball and baseball, but that the barrels tend to be a little bit more forgiving because of that. So like if you're kind of mishitting the ball a little bit, you might get a little bit more out of a two piece bat than one piece bat. Okay, why do you think so many of the clubs that play senior don't have junior teams? I haven't missed on that. I'd say the main reason is just numbers. Like like an awful lot of the teams in rounders are rural based. Like there are more urban based teams coming on board the last little while, but like traditionally it has been quite rural. So you're probably dealing with with small populations, and like the numbers that you would actually need to be able to field two teams, would be quite large. Like um obviously you could say, oh well, if we've 18 players, that's 9 and 9. Like, but if you have an injury, you know, you're going to need to pull somebody up. So you're probably thinking that like if you want a second team, you're going to need I would imagine a minimum of 30 players, and that's 30 players who are willing to play, show up, travel. So like I know like our own squad, like like in our group chats, whatever, we probably have like probably the guts of about 20 people in it. But like on a given day, you probably only have 14, 15 people, and then game to game, one or two of those might be missing. So you might have a squad of like 12 or 13. So it's just not feasible for a lot of teams to have that second team. And there's also the possibility that like the senior teams, like they've been at it so long that I'm not saying like they're stuck in their ways, but like maybe every year the aim is just work a little bit more to try and get that senior title as opposed to try and grow a second team. Like that's kind of more, suppose it's more of a club thing rather than a team. But like sometimes, like if you're close to winning like a senior All Ireland, and I'm sure it's the same at the other levels as well. But like if you're so close and you're fighting there, like when one season finishes, that's all you're thinking about the next year. You're thinking, right, how can we just get a little bit more to get across the line next season, rather than thinking, oh well, okay, well, do you know what we'll do? We'll bring in a new team, and then if they're training with your senior squad, we'll say so. Like if a senior, you're looking to bring in a junior. It's like, well, do you have the resources to actually dedicate full training sessions to them, or like if all these new players are coming into your senior setup, are you worried about maybe the level of the senior training drops when you're trying to increase it? No, I'm just kind of like talking out loud here on what it might be. Is it possibly harder? Is it possibly harder to join a team that already senior? Is it possibly harder? Do you mean as a new player? So I think it probably depends on the club. Like if I'm a new player and I haven't played before and I want to join Rounders and try it out and I want to play and my club is a senior team, it's like, is it hard? Well, it depends on your expectations. Like if I want to come in and play, like well, if there's an established team there that is after competing in the All Ireland Championship, and maybe they finished fifth or fourth, or or maybe they won it. Like do I need a bit of like kind of expectation setting to think, okay, well, who am I to come in and expect to play from day one on this team that's already established when I'm learning the rules? Um, so like in ways it is harder, but like on the flip side, as a player, if I'm not worried about game time, if I go in and I start training with that senior team, like if we did an experiment, take me as a new player, and I go in and I train with a senior team, and maybe I don't play a whole lot, like in competitive games, but I'm training hard and getting a high level of coaching, versus I go in at a junior level and maybe the standard isn't there, coaching might not be there, but I'm playing the games. As a player, I would put, well, not that I'm a gambling man, I would put money on the person who's training with the senior team to be the better player, even though they're not playing the games. Now, are they going to enjoy that? That's a completely individual thing, but there's that balance to it. Um, but I would say that, like, definitely as a player, your skills and everything are going to grow by playing at a higher level and training at a higher level. Now, obviously, if you've got this junior team and you've got senior level coaching and the players are really good and you're getting game time, that's the best of all worlds. You're going to be flying in that scenario. So, yeah, like, I don't know if we're going to actually see any more, like, if we're going to see more or less of multiple teams entering. Like, while it is a great thing, I think at certain stages over the years, like, some teams have kind of struggled to kind of to keep it all going. Like, it is hard to keep that amount of people happy and balanced. So, like, again, all the more reason that, clubs go out, get organized now, get fundraising done, get your volunteers in, get your recruiting done, so that you're not struggling with, okay, well, we've got more than enough for one team, but we don't have enough for two, and then you go into next season and you either enter two teams and one of them has to pull out because he didn't have the numbers, which everyone else in the country will go mad because we don't like to see that. We like to know what's happening. Or you end up with an inflated squad for one team and a lot of disgruntled people because they're not playing. So, get organized, get onto your committees and say, right, what's the story? No point in hibernating for a couple of months and then those same people turn around and, giving out or looking for stuff next year. Um, so, anything else? I know, probably might not have been as interesting when we're talking about club admin stuff. But, like, like, there are so many opportunities coming up. There's usually a clinic up in Strike Zone, and I'm not sure exactly when, but it's usually like October, November, and they've got, like, coaches over from the States. Like, I've gone to a couple of days of it, 2 or 3 times now, and obviously, look, it's for a different sport. You have to kind of modify a lot of things, and there's a lot of things that aren't really applicable to us. But, like, stuff like that, like, I don't think I've ever seen another Rounders person at it. But, like, some of the things you learn and just the way they explain stuff is brilliant. So, like, I would highly recommend, keep an eye out for stuff like that. The GA are always doing coaching conferences and stuff. Like, it's not about, oh, well, sure, it's football, sure, like, we learn nothing from it. Like, no, you learn how to organize training sessions. How to design drills. It's the same. It's the same skills. Do you think more adult clubs should put in more of an effort with underage runners? 100%. Like, if a club doesn't do underage, you basically have an expiry date. Like, how long are your players going to keep playing? How long are you going to expect them to keep playing? If some of them get injured, or, like, if they move on, how are you going to bring somebody in? Like, and also as a club, how much of a culture are you really making? I've had conversations before with people about a team versus a club. A team, okay, well, you could put 9 players together. That's a team. That's not a club. Um, like, I really think, like, as many clubs as possible should be. Obviously, the game is going to grow. The longer people are playing, the more it's seen, the more popular it gets. Like, the benefits are endless. Like, you don't need me to sit here and tell you, say, like, how good it would be for the sport. But, like, but for your club, if you've got kids going, you know, it brings that extra dimension. Like, look, I've been part of All Ireland wins at multiple levels. But some of the best days, and the best homecomings in Everton, and, like, just the excitement when you see some of the kids win, winning, and something it might not even be like a title. They might have just won their first ever game, and what that means to them. Like, to be able to bring that, like, to say, like, this is what our club has actually done, and we've gotten, this group of young people together. like there's no feeling like it. Joe, have you seen any clubs that won't be senior next? Sorry, hold on. Have you seen any clubs that won't be senior next that you think have the structure to be senior in a couple of years? So I'm not sure if you mean like coming from the underage setup or at adult level. Because like at adult level, I'd say like I mean, well, like every club has the potential to be senior. Um, and sometimes it takes a couple of years. You might have a club that goes in for the first year or two and they're just finding their feet, but like after that, it's kind of sink or swim. Like you will see fairly quickly who it's going to be. Um, as for underage, like most of the clubs underage are stemmed from adult teams. Can't think can't think off the top of my head. I'll come back to that if I think of one. Um, setting up an underage structure, underage future kids who played underage, so much more included. Oh, 100%. Um, like they know the game so much better. Like, and they've probably seen like nearly all of the mistakes that could possibly be made. Like so it makes your life an awful lot easier as a coach at adult level if they've played before. Um, and like just again, as I was saying about batting and other things, repetition. So like the more years that people are playing the sport or seeing the sport, like the better they will be. Like it's only in the last couple of years that I've probably seen where kids are starting off at like maybe 10 that have been around rounders for like 3 or 4 years with older siblings playing and parents. Um, because like the underage structure in my own club kind of took a little bit of a hit for a few years, and it got back up and running maybe about 5 or 6 years ago, maybe. But like now I see some of those kids that are like say 10 or 11 that who have been watching their parents play, watching their siblings play for the last number of years, and now they're able to play. The level that they're at is so much higher. Now, not saying that their ceiling will be higher, but like just their base level of knowledge of how the game is played and the skills and you know just like the whole mental side of the game. Like it's so much further along. So junior or inter clubs, could you throw out a few clubs that could be senior by 2030? Well, I don't know what way the championship structure is going to be on, promotions or whatever, but uh, let's see, the clubs that didn't, say, like intermediate, you're probably looking at most of the teams that made the semi-finals that didn't win the senior final, like have a good chance of getting up. Emo, probably the first one that comes to mind. So, like they were very close as it was, and they've done so well at underage level. Like if they can keep those players and keep progressing, like they'll be up in senior again. I think they won the intermediate, was it 2 years ago or 3 years ago? Someone can probably give me an answer on that. Then the ladies Carrick Macross, like they're a new, relatively new ladies team, and like hungry, like they've gone from strength to strength. So you'd be looking at them as potential senior very very soon. Um, then some of the semi-finalists, I can't even think off the top of my head who made the semis. Um, but like I would say like if you just look at like maybe this is being ageist. If you looked at the age profile of a couple of teams, and like if they're on the younger side and doing quite well at the minute, but like with experience and learning the game more, they're only going to get better, and you're probably going to keep those same players. Now, if you look at teams that are struggling to get numbers out, or maybe haven't had an underage system and they're struggling with older, just getting the same older players out the whole time, there's probably less of a chance that they're going to make it senior. But like, it's not to say that it couldn't be done. I mean, look, it only takes one good year, good run, couple of lucky breaks in a game, and you could win an intermediate All Ireland, and up you go. Junior, I haven't really seen as many games this year, to be honest. Um, like I really haven't seen. Like I didn't like I was watching the intermediate finals, so I didn't even see any of the junior finals. But like we had who all come up, St. Sennans and Inniskeen. Um, St. Helens, again, I didn't see them this year, but like, so they'll obviously be delighted with their junior victories. But like, I'd say, like, I saw St. Helens play in the junior. It was it 2022, 2021 or 2022. I think it was 22, and they were in the junior mixed final, and I think they lost by like 1 or 2 runs. Brilliant game, and like they were so close. And then I don't know what happened to them after that. That they kind of didn't really feature until this year, and they obviously came back with a vengeance. So I'd say, like, had you asked them at the time, okay, well, you know, would you be happy going up to intermediate, for the year 2026? They probably wouldn't have been happy at that stage, having come so close so early on. But like, it really just depends. Eh, Names of close like Sinsennens. Yeah, like, I don't really, as I said, I haven't really seen enough of the junior teams, but like, you know, as I was saying about Sinsennens there, like, I haven't seen them to know where to stack up, but like, they have been around a while. They've experienced that heartbreak of losing an All Ireland final. They got over it this year. Um, like, maybe you tell me, like, is it more likely they go back to back promotions, or will it take a little bit of adjusting to kind of get used to the standard of intermediate? Because we definitely see, like, not all teams, but like some teams struggling going from intermediate to senior. Definitely in the ladies with that change in the pitch and distance, like, that has definitely, caught a few over the years. Obviously men's and mixed, it doesn't change, so like, there might be less adjusting to do. Uh, what yeah? Oh, sorry, I missed one there. What do we think about adding a second mat at first to avoid potential collisions? Well, I don't know of any collisions on first. Um, like, look, we're a minimal contact sport. It shouldn't be needed. I think a lot of things kind of go, and maybe we need to be stricter on, like, even at underage. And I know it sounds harsh, but like, any of these potential obstruction stuff, you see an awful lot of people standing on the base without the ball, without the ball even coming near them. I don't know if they're trying to, it's just that they don't know, and the level of coaching is very low, or they're, thinking, okay, well, if I stand on the base, like, if I'm standing on second or first, or wherever, they're less likely to be able to get to the next base, which is very unsporting. So I'm not sure if that's the case. But look, anything that would, not affect the quality of the game or the rules of the game, while protecting our players, I suppose it can only be a benefit. Like, it's not that long ago that we brought in helmets. Like, helmets are only in 10 years. I know that probably sounds mental to some people, but like, they're not. Patter, great stuff, Daryl. How do you push on players that you just know have the ability to be great, but they're not pushing themselves? How do I push them without putting them off? Great question. I think you have to know what you're dealing with. Like, different players will react to, like, different stimuli. Like, some people, it's like, okay, well, if you point out what they're doing, they might be more or less likely to work on it. So you probably have to know, what way they're going to receive that. Are they someone who's going to, like, do they only do well with praise, or are they the type of person that'll be like, blah blah blah, you need to be better at this, and they'll go, well, do you know what? I'm going to prove you wrong. I'm guessing from what you said about them not pushing themselves, that they're not that type. Um, so I would say, like, maybe look at certain parts of the game that particular player, that you think, okay, well, this is just the one thing that's holding it back, or if it's a few things, you know, try not to do it all at once. So, like, break down what you're going to work on and say, okay, well, we're going to master this, or we're going to really really work on this first. Because, again, I see a lot of trainings, my own club included, underage, adult, other clubs. I've seen, I don't know how many different clubs training. Everyone has their own idea on what they want to do for training. Usually just communicate at the start of training, okay, we're going to work on this. And, say, like, Patrick, if you're coaching the team, have in your head, okay, this is what I want to work on today. It's like, we're not going to do everything. If I know everyone wants to play, and everyone wants to do 20 different things. If you do that, you're not really going to improve any single one of them quickly. But like really work down, okay, we're going to work on this skill. So and then so say it's throwing. We're gonna break down the throwing technique. Then we're gonna bring it into like a drill. Okay, it's throwing, but there's certain conditions. So like it's still very structured. It's very linear. It's like okay, you get the ball, you pick it up. We were practicing, say like this hip shoulder separation. You're going to be doing the same thing, only it's going here. Okay, controlled setting, and then we build it out until they can probably do it between like muscle memory, but also it's like they have that decision making of when they should be doing it. Do I actually have the time to do it? I'm not sure if this is kind of if that's answering your question or not, Patter. But I would say like if you can communicate it to everyone, it's like this is what we're going to work on, and then some people will naturally like have that bit of affinity towards. Okay, I really enjoyed that drill. I get better at it, and they'll end up pushing themselves a little bit better at that. Um, maybe that's I don't know. Maybe that's not answering your question at all. But I don't know. That's how I would address it. Like, there's certain players that sometimes you can't until they suffer like a bit of a bit of a loss, or something happens that they kind of go and look back and go, okay, right, I need to cop myself on and I need to work on that. I can do X, Y, and Z, but because I can't do this, it's holding me back. It's holding the team back. Um, maybe record a couple of training sessions, or like if you have any footage of them in a game, you know, you could always like talk to them, or even as a team, it's like, okay, well, what could we do better here? Point out a few things and be like, Jesus, you could have done like you would have been well able to do that if you had have just gone for it, or if you had have decided to do this or that. And that's how I would approach it anyway. So, junior to intermen's is about 15 runs. The clubs that went senior have been destroyed. Sorry, junior to intermen's is about 15 runs. Clubs that went senior have been destroyed. Um, so I don't know if you mean like as in the teams that go up lose by about 15 runs. Um, sometimes that does happen, and look, sometimes that happens within senior. Um, like I've seen teams, score very very little one year in like nearly all of their games, and then they come back the next year and they can make an All Ireland, or you know you can run people very close. Um, the score line doesn't always tell the story of the game. Like I've been involved in games where it was an absolute hammering, like on both sides, by winning by like absolutely hammering a team and getting hammered by a team. And when you look at the score afterwards, there was 2 or 3 runs in it. So like the score line doesn't often always tell the story. Or you could have another game where it's the opposite, where at the end of the day, oh, there was 15 runs in it. It's like, but it didn't feel like that was really close. Or it's like, I've definitely seen there was a number of games this year where it was neck and neck for the first 4 innings, and then in the fifth inning, maybe a bowler collapses, or a team just gets a little bit tired, and one team ends up throwing on 10 runs in the last inning, and suddenly a game that was a 2-run game is now a 12-run game. Oh Jesus, that was an absolute blowout. It's like, well, if you actually watch the game, it's not. Um, and sometimes, unfortunately, we have to go through those growing pains. I remember doing an interview um, with the Carrick boys, with Colin, Birdie, and Ronan a couple of years ago, and just on like their journey. And they said like when they started, like there was no junior, there was no intermediate, so they only had senior. And the first couple of years, like we didn't even have a team, so like getting hammered was better than the situation I was in. Um, like they said, like they were getting hammered week in, week out, but they were learning the whole time, and they wouldn't stop. And now, like they're after winning. This was their third title. You know, so like sometimes you just have to have that little bit of resilience to keep going. Look, you have it in inter-county. I mean, like how many football and hurling games this year were absolute hammerings on one side or the other. Sometimes it just happens. I wouldn't read too much into the scoreline in a game. Now, if you see a game where it's like, okay, well, the first inning was 7-0, the second inning the score ended up being 14-0. That's an absolute hammering. You could read that from the score. But like sometimes, like a game that finishes 15-12 could have been an absolute blowout, and like one team basically had the game won kind of eased off, let a couple of runs in at the end, and like, all right, okay, let's shore it up and finish it up. And it was a really tight game, but anyone who watched it didn't, it wasn't. Um, like you could say that some of the games this year, um, like game is over, and then the score looks respectable, but like really, what when you were watching it, did it feel like a tight game? Hard to know. Um, Craig, what's the most common mistake you see made by coaches at matches? Uh, there's probably a few of them, Craig. Like, okay, I know this is going to sound a bit contradictory, but sometimes too much coaching. Like there's a certain stage where I think as a coach you have to let players make their own decisions. Like I've seen games where a ball is hit at a player and everyone on the sideline shouts at the underage player, "Stop the ball and throw it." It's like that's what they're going to try and do anyway. Like they're trying to micromanage every single decision, and like if you do that, you end up not being able to make those decisions. Especially when it's quite straightforward. Like, okay, maybe there's like one play that you'd be like, okay, shortstop, if you get this ball, I want you to hold on to it. I don't actually want you to throw it. I want you to run to second base and then throw the one, or something like that. But like I'd say they're probably more the exception than the rule, and that like there is an awful lot of overcoaching in the game. And the next biggest mistake is probably thinking, okay, well, they're my best player, so they need to play here. It's like so, like they're the best player, they need to be bowler, or their best player, they need to be shortstop. Um, Whereas, okay, maybe your team does well for that, but your player suffers because that's not where they want to play, or the opposite. It's like, okay, they might be your best player, but they're your best player because you're your best outfielder. So like now that you've made them into a bowler or a catcher or something, they're no longer your best player. It's like there's that side of it. Um, both videos have been very inciting, but hopefully you've learned a few bits and pieces. Look, I'm here to share what little knowledge I have of the game. Sometimes I probably think I know more than I do, and if you ask others, they'll say, "Oh, he has notions or thinks he knows more." Do you feel the GA Park is not putting enough effort into promoting rounders? Not really. Sorry, when I say not really, I think that they are now. Like, look, we're not going to suddenly go from being out in the wilderness and maybe years where we were in a bit of a regression. Like it's only in the last number of years that Rounders has really exploded. But like for years, like it was getting smaller. There was less clubs. There was more issues in that like we were dying out as a sport for a number of years. Um, so like when that's happening and we're not really helping ourselves to a certain extent, it's kind of hard to expect someone to come in and just do it all for us. But like over the last number of years, I think like they've been working so much closer with us. Like I mean, like we've had TG Carr out doing some of the games. Like would we have had the pull of that if the GA weren't backing us? Getting into like some great facilities like Abbottstown, Kinnegad, hopefully like this midway venue in Athlone. Like none of these things would really be possible without the GA. So like I think they are helping, but the more we help ourselves, the more they can help us. So like the more we promote it, the more we put the game out there. Like look, this is part of why I'm doing this. Obviously it's about sharing knowledge and stuff, but like the more the game is out there, the more people that it reaches. It's like, okay, well, there's more people interested. We'll put a little bit more into it. So like if we do that, they'll respond in kind. Patter, so coaches, managers, trainers are very important to thrive in teams, but coaches, trainers are very hard to get. Some people say you can't play and manage and win. Do you agree? Um, you can, but it's hard. Um, like it's very very difficult to like focus on your own game and also focus on other people. Um, like I would find it easier to coach and play, but like when it comes to like I wouldn't be able to personally I wouldn't be able to manage because like when it comes to a game, like I'm so focused on my own game that it's like okay, well, yes, I will have my thoughts and like if there's days where I'm not happy with 9 players on the field, never mind one. But it's kind of hard to zero in on someone else if you're focusing on your own game. And if you're able to zero in on somebody else, it's like, well, how much are you focusing on your own game? So like for coaching, not so much. I think it's a bit easier to kind of handle that. But like on managing, sometimes you just need a fresh pair of eyes. So like I think we probably need to move more the GA route of maybe not even like independent managers, but like, no harm having selectors, so that you've just someone watching, just like Jesus, Daryl out there, he doesn't seem to be moving well, think about taking him off, or a training Sean there has been playing really, really well. I would consider, giving him a start or something. So, just something to think of. Are there taster sessions that can be held at clubs who might be thinking of starting up a team? Um, well, like if you've got a club as it is, so like a GA club, like you can run a taster session and like look, just go to GARounders.ie, or if you want, you can message me and I'll try and put you in touch with someone. Get someone from the nearest club to come along and do something with you. Um, like if you have people that have never done it before, it can be a little bit tricky to manage. But if you do have even if you have a core group of people of three or four, and like there's a winter league going on, so say you're in Carlow, for example, and the Carlow Wexford leash, or I'm not sure, Paddy will be able to tell you what the title of it is. Is it the CWL league? Over the winter, like if there's something going on, either they're training or having a match, they might invite you along to at least watch it, have an idea, and then you might be able to get someone to come and do a session rather than doing one blind, or again, watching the streams of the finals and stuff really do help. But like it is possible to get a taster session, but ask. See, yeah, so Carlo Wexford Leash League. So I'm not sure, Drone in Ireland, I'm not sure where you're based, but like there are stuff, so if you want to go and watch it, there's going to be a few bits and pieces on, like the Connacht Cup is going to be going on soon in Athlone GA. I'm actually very excited to kind of go down and have a look at the field and see what it potentially could be. Um, but yeah, so like there's that, but also just talk, ask people. I'm sure if you ask in the chat here, it's like I'm in this up in Tyrone where I don't know where the nearest team will be. So there used to be a map function on GARounders.ie, and it could tell you what the nearest club was. So like the Ulster Cup is on in the Centre of Excellence in Monaghan on Saturday. So like if that's maybe that's not suitable for you, if you wanted to go along and have a look, there's I'll be there myself. I have to do a little bit of reffing, but if you want to go along and have a look. But I don't think there's any teams in Tyrone at the minute. There are a couple in Derry. Used to be one in Armagh, a couple in Cavan and Monaghan and up in Antrim. But like if you know if you want to drop me a message on Instagram and I can try and sort out something. Hopefully we'll get you sorted. Mark, what are your thoughts on people in training that are bad trainers, not showing off what they can do, and then a match is they're brilliant? Best is it best let them at it if they're performing? Um, well, it depends. Sorry, that's my answer for everything. So, like, are they not showing up to training? Um, would the team suffer if they don't do what they're doing? Um, like, yeah. So that'd be my first thing. Like, are they not showing up to training? So if there's someone not showing up to training, okay, yeah, they might be playing really well, but like, say, like, if I'm selecting a team, there's one person training, one person not training. They're of a similar level. The person who's training is getting started, and the person who's not training is going to be sat on the bench. Simple as that. Um, Now, if the game changes and you need a change, they're there, they will get their opportunity. But like sometimes, you might just have to teach a lesson. Now, there are exceptions to this. Like for years, we had James Anderson, who I consider one of the best bowlers, not the best bowler ever. I know Chris Hughes will disagree with me on that one. He has his own pick, but like James was based in Dublin, and we were training midweek, so like he'd only make one training every so often. But like he'd come down and do such a job that you're just like, yeah, look, we know he's going to perform. He was doing his own little bit of training, so it might not be the same scenario. But like at an underage level, we'll say I if someone is a bad trainer and they're not bothered or whatever, even if they play really well, I wouldn't really be in favor of uh, rewarding that because okay, you might get a good performance out of them, but like what sort of message are you sending to the rest of your team? Are other people going, oh well, if they're not going to try a training, well, I'm not going to try. It's like okay, well, maybe that works for that particular person, or maybe they're doing their own bit of training on the side. But like, if that kind of filters out into your whole team, I think you're going to have trouble sooner rather than later with it. Um, I don't know. I'd say most people who you know coach kids be like, okay, well, if there's a bad influence there and they're going to put people off, it's like, well, do you want them to be able to win a game the one time they show up, or do you want to promote something that they're going to be keeping at it for years, and then we can keep them going. So it is a bit of a balancing act. Um, so guys, any other questions, or might just end that there. Yeah, I'll give you another minute just in case there's something. But look, hopefully this was some bit enlightening. I know it probably bored you with all the information on the bats, but yeah, like look, don't overthink about what's a good bat, what's a bad bat, and like sometimes just you might just have to bite the bullet and go and buy a semi decent bat, or like spend a couple of £100 on one or two bats that's going to be appropriate for your team. Look, there's fundraising options there. There's grants out there for like new equipment. Like it's not under Rounders, but like I'm sure like there's community activities. It's like okay, well look, we want to make Rounders more accessible to people by getting lighter bats or a range of stuff or more teas. It's like that is an option. So right guys, I'm gonna head on. So and look, I will be in touch. I'm gonna have a video up hopefully in the next week or less, just a really short one. Just on like those nets and the bat and tee, just on where to go and like look, it's Net World Sports if anyone is interested. But like I'll try and do like a screen recording of exactly which ones that I'd recommend and which ones I wouldn't. But look, you can take it or leave it. Just I'd say if you can, whenever it's up, send it on to people in your committee and just say, here, this is worth a look. It's like, and then at least if they look and say, no, we're not going to bother. It's like, well, you've done what you can. It's just it's a couple of little bits of equipment. It's just like like the bat and tees, the net to hit into for practicing batting, and then like the pitching one. So it's like a screen with like a little hole in it. So it just means that you can set it up like 5 or 6 meters away from home, and you don't need to have your pitcher pitching the whole time. That you can just like as a coach or another player can just hop in behind it, lob the ball in. People get their bat practice in to get a feel for hitting the ball. Okay, right guys, take care, and thanks a million for tuning in tonight. Take care.